Most managers think that the source of this stakeholder chaos is about personalities. It's not. It's just a symptom of a deeper, much more structural problem. This is exactly where we go wrong pretty much every time. And we think, oh, I just need to communicate better. I need more meetings with stakeholders. I will send longer emails. But this is just putting a band-aid on the symptom. The real problem isn't the lack of communication. The real problem is a fundamental lack of clarity. So what actually creates this clarity problem, and it's a source of chaos? It most often boils down to these three culprits. First is the undefined decision rights. You know, when 10 different people think they are the referee, yeah, of course it's going to be chaos. Second is the conflicting incentives. And every stakeholder tries to pull the project in its own direction to hit their own goals. And third, hidden priorities from way up top, which creates this fog of confusion that just affects everyone. And what is the cost for you in all that missing structure? You're forced to become the human go-between, the coordination layer, the translator, the person that tries to absorb all the chaos and hold it all together. But here is the kicker. Instead of speeding things up, you don't just become the coordination layer. You eventually become the bottleneck. Everything grinds to a halt because everything has to pass through you. But listen, it absolutely does not have to be this way. The most effective, calm leaders out there, they don't just react to chaos. Actively design systems to stop it from ever happening in the first place. So how do you design a system where chaos does not exist? There are three simple structures for designing a clarity system at work as a product leader. And the framework is beautifully simple. It just builds on itself. First, we get crystal clear on who owns each decision. Second, we make all the priorities explicit by forcing honest conversation about trade-offs. Third, we stop chasing this mythical beast called alignment, and instead we just default to transparency. Let's dive in each one of them. The first thing that breaks is decision ownership. Most teams actually operate in what I call fake alignment. You know, this meeting with everyone gets to talk, everyone nods along, and you leave the meeting with the feeling of, great, we have consensus. But then nothing actually happens. Why? Because no one is actually on the hook for the outcome. It's the illusion of agreement with zero real ownership. Let's look at a real-world example. There was a moment that my team had 6 stakeholders. Once we switched to one decision owner and the rest people were just contributors, lead time has almost flashed to half. Decisions that used to drag for weeks, they started happening in days or even instantly. That is the power of clarity. So let's go to our second structure. The second thing that usually breaks is priorities. Stakeholders rarely disagree openly. They disagree silently though, via side discussions, last-minute escalations, or passive resistance. So how you can make the priorities explicit? Instead of asking if an idea is good or bad, you just ask them this powerful question. If we agree to do this, what are we agreeing not to do as a result? Here is a little story of this in action. Picture this. A sales leader comes to you with a new request. So your gut reaction is either say yes and crush the current priorities of the team and your overall plan, or say no and start a fight with the sales leader. So what did I do in this case? I made the trade-offs explicit. Said, yeah, sure, we can build this feature, but it means delaying these 3 other commitments. So once that cost was totally visible, the sales leader withdrew the request. No fight, no drama, just facts. The big shift here is that you're not being difficult or just saying no. You just take your emotions and your opinions completely out of the equation. You're not pushing back with feelings. You are simply exposing the structural reality of what the team can and cannot do. And that leads us to the third structure. The third thing that breaks is how decisions are made visible. It's all about moving away from that exhausting chase for alignment and instead building a system that just defaults to total transparency. Think it as 2 different worlds here. On one side, you have this soul-crushing chasing alignment model that leads to everything we hate. Endless meeting, looping the same decisions over and over, and progress that moves very, very slowly. But on the other side, you have this calm, clear work that defaults into transparency, where the focus is clear documents, clear decisions, and a clear rationale that anyone can see anytime. And this is the most profound outcome of this entire approach. You stop waiting for everyone to agree before you can move forward. If all the decisions and the why behind them are out in the open, realignment just happens and becomes a byproduct of a healthy system, not just some impossible barrier you have to smash through just to get started. So it all sounds great, but I understand the idea of rewiring your entire organization most likely feels daunting. So let's bring all this down to earth. So what can you start actually doing today after you finish watching this video? The advice is really simple, and it's the advice that I give in almost all my videos. Just start with one thing. Define one decision owner, document the top 3 priorities of your team, or make a trade-off explicit by writing it down and sending an email to the stakeholders. Think of it as your own little pilot program for sanity. You don't try to change the entire company overnight. You're just carving a small island of clarity in a whole sea of chaos. So for that one area you've chosen, here are your simple 3-step action. Define a single decision owner who has the final say. 2. Work with them to document the top 3 and only 3 priorities. And 3. Commit to make every single trade-off conversation explicit and put that decision in writing. So the biggest takeaway here is a fundamental reframing of your role. You're not just a facilitator of meetings or manager of tasks or roadmap. You're a designer of systems. So the most important thing to remember from all of this is that stakeholder problem is not a people problem. It's a system design problem. When you clarify ownership, when you expose trade-offs, when you default to transparency, you're not trying to control people and how stakeholders behave. You're engineering an environment where struggle and confusion simply struggles to survive. So I will leave you with this question. What's gonna be? You keep wrestling with the symptoms, miscommunication, frustration, or you're ready to start designing a cure. The power is really in your hands. Thank you for listening to me today. I'm Stella Gaki from Camp Product Leader, and see you next time. Bye!